The night was cold, and the stars above Istvan V burned like distant flames over a world scarred by war. Within the ancient halls of the Warrior Lodge, the sons of the Emperor gathered, not merely to train, but to forge themselves into instruments of fate. Here, under the shadow of their Primarch, warriors learned the art of war, discipline, and loyalty. And yet, loyalty could be as sharp as a blade, capable of cutting both the body and the soul. The lodge was carved from obsidian and stone, its architecture both terrifying and magnificent. Vaulted ceilings stretched above like the ribs of a god, and banners of long-dead campaigns hung like ghosts along the walls. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced across the polished floors, illuminating warriors practicing drills in synchronized precision. In the center of the hall stood Captain Garviel Loken, his armor catching the dim light. Eyes narrowed as he observed the younger initiates. They were strong. They were fast. They were fearless. But they were not yet ready. The purpose of the lodge. The Warrior Lodge had existed before the Great Crusade. Its halls had echoed with the footsteps of men who were mortal, yet larger than life. Now, it served a higher purpose, to temper human courage into the unwavering blade of the Imperium. Loken moved among the trainees, correcting stances, adjusting grips, and speaking quietly but firmly. Strength is nothing without control. Power is meaningless without direction. Remember that, for it is the difference between victory and death. The young warriors nodded, absorbing his words like parched earth drinks rain. Outside, the wind howled through the stone battlements, carrying with it the faint stench of war and smoke from the distant front lines. From the upper galleries, whispers passed among the senior captains. "The boys grow restless," one said. "Soon they will know the true test of loyalty." Another responded, "Let them. The lodge teaches more than combat. It teaches obedience. It teaches fear. And fear is the sharpest tool of all." The arrival of a stranger, a commotion at the main gate, drew the attention of all present. A lone figure approached, clad in armor not of the lodge's design, bearing the sigil of the Sons of Horus. All training ceased as the figure entered, quiet, measured, and radiating authority. It was Abaddon, the first captain, and with him came the weight of countless battles, victories, and scars. Loken stepped forward to greet him. "First Captain," he said, "your presence is unexpected." Abaddon's gaze swept the hall, landing briefly on the trainees. "They are ready," he said, voice low, but with the gravity of a thunderclap. "And soon they will learn that loyalty is tested not in dree, but in fire." The young initiates trembled, not from fear of Abaddon, but from the recognition that their world, orderly, structured world, would soon be consumed by chaos. Training beyond flesh. For hours, the lodge resounded with the clash of blades, the pounding of feet, and the calls of instructors. Loken watched, aware that these exercises were more than practice. Each strike, each parry, each shout was meant to break them and rebuild them, molding flesh, spirit, and mind into a weapon that could serve the Emperor without hesitation. One trainee, a boy named Joran, faltered under the weight of a heavy blade. His stance wavered. His muscles screamed with exhaustion. "Do not fail," Loken's voice cut across the hall. "Strength comes from persistence. Resolve comes from suffering. Pain is not an enemy. Pain is your teacher." Joran's eyes burned with determination. He lifted the blade, sweat and blood mingling on his brow, and pressed forward. Around him, others mirrored his resolve, and the hall vibrated with the hum of human determination, amplified into near divine purpose. The lessons of obedience. Later, the trainees gathered around the Council of Captains, seated in shadowed alcoves high above the main hall. The room was cold, and the air smelled faintly of iron and wax. Captain Edric, a veteran of the Great Crusade, spoke first. "Obedience is more than following orders. Obedience is sacrifice. Obedience is surrendering the self to a higher cause. Those who cannot obey do not belong in the lodge." Loken observed the reactions of the trainees. Some understood. Some resisted, not openly, but subtly, in clenched fists and narrowed eyes. Abaddon rose from the shadows. His voice, though calm, carried weight. "There will come a day when your loyalty is tested, not by drills, but by blood. When that day comes, remember the lodge. Remember what you were taught. And remember, there is no shame in survival if your obedience endures." The trainees exchanged glances. Fear and pride mingled in equal measure. In that instant, the lodge revealed its true purpose: not to train warriors, but to forge souls capable of following the path of destiny. Even into darkness, nightfall and reflection. As the sun set, the hall emptied of trainees, leaving only the seasoned captains and Loken. They walked the corridors in silence, the echo of their boots against stone, a solemn hymn. "Do you think they will survive the coming battles?" Loken asked quietly. Abaddon's gaze drifted to the flickering torches. "Survival is irrelevant," he said. "What matters is loyalty. Without that, all else is meaningless. Even victory is hollow." Loken paused, feeling the truth in those words. The lodge was not a school of war. It was a crucible of obedience. And crucibles burn everything that is weak. In the darkness of the upper gallery, the banners of past campaigns swayed in the cold wind. Ghosts of old warriors seemed to watch them, silent, unyielding, and eternal. For every lesson taught in the warrior lodge, every strike, every shout, every whispered command, carved the path to destiny and also to inevitable sorrow. The echoes of the past. Loken wandered into the inner sanctum, where the portraits of past commanders hung in shadow. Eyes of painted men followed his every move. He stopped before one portrait, a former captain whose name was long forgotten, but whose deeds still resonated in the halls. He touched the frame lightly, as if feeling the weight of history. "Each of them," he murmured, "fought, obeyed, and yet none of us are free. We are all bound to the same path." From behind, Abaddon's voice came softly. "Freedom is a luxury the Emperor cannot afford, And the Lodge exists to remind you of that. Loken nodded. He understood. The Lodge did not teach glory. It taught sacrifice, obedience, and endurance, the pillars upon which the Imperium rested. And the pillars were strong, unyielding, and merciless. As night fully claimed the halls, Loken stood upon the highest balcony, looking out across the darkened training fields. Below, the fires of practice burned, casting long, trembling shadows of young warriors stretching into the night. The wind carried a whisper, almost lost in the stone corridors, a reminder that the path ahead would be long, harsh, and unforgiving. And in that whisper, the Warrior Lodge had revealed its ultimate truth. Not all who enter emerge unbroken, but those who endure become legends. The first light of dawn crept across the Warrior Lodge, painting the obsidian walls with blood-red hue. Silence reigned, not the peace of rest, but the tense quiet of anticipation. For today, the young warriors would face the trial of fire, a ritual of obedience and sacrifice that separated men from legends. The trial begins. Captain Loken led the trainees to the central arena, a vast courtyard encircled by stone pillars etched with the names of heroes long dead. Here, they would not spar with each other, but with the raw fury of war, controlled, precise, and unforgiving. Abaddon stood on the upper gallery, his gaze sweeping the courtyard. "The trial is not merely combat," he announced. "It is the forging of your will. Steel may protect your body, but it will not shield your mind. Obedience will." The young soldiers exchanged nervous glances. Some smiled to mask fear. Others stared straight ahead, teeth clenched, in silent determination. The first challenge was simple, yet merciless. Endure the fire. Flames erupted from the central pyres, encircling the trainees, their heat scorching armor and flesh alike. Many faltered, screaming or staggering. But Loken's voice rang out over the chaos. "Through fire, you are reborn. Pain is your ally. Fear is your teacher." One by one, the warriors passed through the inferno, emerging scorched, bloodied, but unbroken. The first lesson of the day: obedience is resilience. The lessons of death. Next came combat trials. Trainees were paired against seasoned veterans, each fight a brutal lesson in skill, endurance, and hierarchy. Swords clashed with metal-on-metal screams. Bolters roared. Shields shattered under repeated strikes. A young trainee named Karen faced his mentor, Captain Edric, in single combat. Karen's strikes were precise, but each parry from Edric revealed weakness, in form, in timing, in spirit. "Do not fight for glory," Edric growled. "Fight for survival, for obedience, for the will of those who command you." Karen faltered. Doubt pierced his mind like a blade, but Loken's voice cut through. "Obedience first, strength second. If you defy the path will crush you." Karen fell to one knee, and yet he rose, renewed, striking true the next time. He had learned what the Lodge demanded: submission to a cause greater than self. Shadows of the past. As the day progressed, whispers of the Lodge's history grew louder. Veterans spoke of battles fought, victories won, and sacrifices made, of brothers who obeyed and yet perished because loyalty alone could not protect them. Loken walked among the trainees, narrating quietly. "Remember the sacrifices," he said. "Every man who walked these halls before you is a shadow here. We honor them not with song, but with obedience. Their lives, their deaths, are your guide." The young warriors listened, faces solemn. Some shivered, though not from cold. Others clenched their fists, absorbing every word, every cautionary tale. For in the shadows of the lodge, one truth was clear. Obedience without understanding is perilous, but understanding without obedience is death. The arrival of the Primarch. As the sun reached its zenith, a tremor shook the stone halls. The trainees froze. From the main entrance, a figure appeared, vast, radiant, and terrifying. Horus Lupercal, the War Master, had come. The air changed. The temperature dropped. Even the seasoned captains instinctively knelt as the Primarch approached. Horus's eyes swept the courtyard, resting briefly on each trainee, then on Loken. "You have trained well," he said, voice resonating like rolling thunder. "But training is not enough. Loyalty is not enough. Obedience is tested in blood, in fear, in despair. Today you will see what it means to serve, and what it costs to fail." The words cut deep. The Lodge was not only a school of war, it was a mirror reflecting the truth of mortality against divinity. The final test, Horus summoned the trainees to face their ultimate trial, a simulation of total war, where every decision, strike, and hesitation determined survival. Flames, smoke, and the cries of phantom enemies filled the arena. Trainees fought not just against shadows, but against their own doubt and fear. Every strike carried consequence. Every parry, every retreat was observed. Loken moved among them, correcting, guiding, encouraging. "Do not falter," he roared. "Obedience is your shield. Obedience is your sword. Without it, you are nothing." By nightfall, only those who had endured every trial, who had survived fire, combat, and fear, remained standing. They were bloodied, broken, yet resolute, the true warriors of the Lodge. Lessons etched in stone. As the fires died, the captains gathered the survivors. Horus spoke again, this time with a softer edge. "You are ready," he said. "Ready to serve, ready to obey, ready to become instruments of fate. But remember this, loyalty is tested not here, not in trials, but in the field. There your choices will echo across worlds, and some echoes cannot be undone." Loken observed the faces of the survivors, pride mixed with sorrow, relief with fear. They had been forged, they had endured, and yet each carried the seed of doubt, the awareness of what obedience truly demanded. Abaddon stepped forward, placing a hand on Loken's shoulder. "The Lodge has done its work," he said quietly. "They are warriors, yes, but they are also men. Remember that, for it is their humanity that will shape their destiny, or destroy it."